Everybody, we're going to start on lesson 5. Welcome back. So now I'm going to show you how to insert images. All right, so again, this could be any subject, but I'm going to show you some images with math. Let me start by showing you my favorite website to get some math graphs from. So we are looking at graphfree.com. All right, if you have not discovered this, this is wonderful. It makes everything look professional. So I'm going to click on make a graph here. So the questions I'm going to show you today are, here's a graph, tell me the equation. All right, so that's the type of question I'm going to show you here. All right, so under this first one, it's the pixels. I leave it at the 400 by 400. Now for this, I like to change my window for both x and y from -10 to 10. Again, whatever you're graphing will depend on what your window is. So there's that. And then you could change the grid line color. I like to make it a little bit darker because that way when it prints, it's easier to see. And you can label the axes here. There's a lot going on in this website, so you definitely want to poke around. Okay. So my plot, and I do have some, I have this like pre-populated on what I want. 1/2 x plus 3. So they already have f of x equals 1/2 x plus 3. There it is. How beautiful is that? So now I'm on a Mac, so I'm going to do a 2-finger click. PC, I believe it's right click on the image. I'm going to save the image as, and mine defaults to the desktop. I'll just call it graph 1. And then it'll pop up on my desktop when it's good and ready. All right, so once you have all your images made, or if you want to do them one at a time so you don't mix them up, you can see I've already put some graphs in here. So if I were to make this cell bigger, you can see it better. So the bigger you make the cell, the bigger the image. It just fits right into the size there. So what I want to do is get this graph in this cell. Okay, so click on the cell you want it in, insert, image, and you want in the cell, not over the cell. If you put it over the cell, then you can't use it in functions and all of that fun stuff. Now the only thing with images is you can't use like concatenate or anything like that, which is kind of a bummer because of some math symbols. Okay, there we go. So you would want to take time, if you're doing this, to put your image in and then the corresponding answers. In my case, it's the graph and the corresponding equations. All right, so what I want to do is I've already set this up for questions 4 and 5, that I want the graph to appear in this space, and then I gave them room here to write the equation. Okay, and I'm already starting it with y equals. Maybe that's too much of a prompt and you don't want that there. All right, so go back to my hidden. All right, now I'm using this for 2 questions, and I'm going to show you again how you do that with this question bank. How do I pick 2 unique questions? If you're good with that, maybe you just want to stop the video here. If you want a refresher, stick around. All right, so I'm going to pick a random number between 1 and 5 because that's how big my test bank is. If you have 20 questions in there, you would go 1, 20. All right, and I'm going to have that, copy that a little bit. Okay. Now, I'm going to grab these first 2 numbers. The problem is if it randomly picks the same 2 numbers twice, numbers 4 and 5 would be identical, and you don't want that. So we're going to use the unique function for this list of numbers. And there we go. And here's a perfect example. Number 4 would be 2 and number 5 would be 2. We don't want that. So here it took the first 2 unique numbers. All right, so I'm just going to highlight those because those are the only ones I'm using, because there's only 2 questions. Okay, so now I want the graph here and the equation here. That's picked. So we're going to use the ifs function equals ifs. If this cell equals 1, then I want the first graph. Otherwise, if this cell equals 2, 2, I want this graph, and we're going to do that up to 5. Equals 3. It's 4. If this cell equals 5. Cross your fingers. Okay. So now I'm going to copy this over here. It's not going to work. I have to fix it a little bit because this is saying I do want this cell, but I want those, so that's good. So it moved F over to G, and I want all these G's to be F's, right? Because now it's looking here to see the numbers 1 through 5 when it should be looking here to see the numbers 1 through 5. So anytime I see a G, I'm going to put an F. So let's just fix that. F, F, F. Now, if your test bank has 20 of them in, you're going to have to do that 20 times. Okay? All right, so now we have a matching set. Now I want to move that down. So I do want it to move down and take this number, but I don't want it to shift all of these down 1. So now I want everything that's in the C column to stay put. So that means, or B column, sorry, in the B column to stay put. So that means after every letter B, I'm going to put the $sign. So this is better if you are doing this for more than 2 questions, you know. All right, so that should have grabbed number 5 there. Yeah, that looks like that graph, and number 3. All right, same deal here. In the C column, I don't want this to shift, so after each letter C, I'm going to put the $sign. So I'll do that 5 times. Oops, what did I do here? Too many $signs there. All right, and now I'll click and drag that to the next cell. Okay, wonderful. Now I want to get these into my quiz. I must have had something in there. All right, so equals this graph. Nice, look at that. Equals this graph. All right, now let's just kind of double check here. I am going to click on an empty cell and keep hitting delete, and I should get 2 different graphs every time. There should be no repeats there. All right, and then you want to create your answer sheet, and in the answer sheet you would pull these 2 equations. Okay, so that's inserting images and a nice little review of getting unique questions out of a test bank. All right, guys, we will see you next time for lesson 6.